Hey, what's up, guys? Today, Johnny Vibes joined us to review a live poker hand a student submitted to us. And Johnny is a long-time professional poker player and YouTube blogger. If you don't know him, make sure to check out his YouTube channel. And I would say, without further ado, let's get into the hand. As you can see, we are on the cutoff in a typical 2-5 game, and we have nearly 12 big blinds effective. We're up to 20 bucks with queen 9 in hearts, button calls, and the blinds fold. The flop is ace jack 3 with 2 clubs and 1 heart. And what did we do?
Yeah, so he just bets out like a little under half pot here.
Okay, we bet 20 into 47. Yeah, what do you think about the c-bet and this sizing, Johnny?
So I think that we're going to bet a lot of hands on this particular flop. Obviously, we have the better hands here. We have the aces, we have the ace jacks, we have the pocket jacks, we have the pocket threes, and he has a lot less of those hands. I would say describing him as a competent aggro, it's not going to have hands like ace king, pocket aces, pocket jacks. He would likely 3-bet most of his suited Broadway holdings. So we just get to bet with impunity here so often, a large portion of our range.
Yeah, for sure. Pretty good board for us. Yeah, as you say, he just doesn't have too many nutter combos. I mean, if he's like fairly tight, we need to be kind of careful because he will connect somewhat with like gutters and stuff. But I think, as you say, we can definitely bet pretty wide here. And I think our combo is pretty good too. Like not always betting, but having like blocking if he does have some ace queen, and then we have the back doors. I think it's a good spot to start betting. I like the small sizing too as well. Like I think if we're going to be betting really wide, we don't want to be going with like a big sizing.
Yeah, totally. We definitely don't want to be betting all of our hands, like our pocket fives and hands like that. But a queen and a 9 specifically, we have some backdoor straight, backdoor hearts, logical cards that we can continue with on the turn. So I can get more on board with betting.
For sure. So
yeah, exactly. I agree that we definitely want to have a check call and check raise range. So like you mentioned, Johnny, when we have like 6-7 with no backdoors, nice hand to give up, probably bluff on some rivers, some runoffs. But yeah, with queen 9 and hearts, it's usually not getting better than that.
And I'm fine with the sizing too. I mean, we're just gonna accomplish what we want to accomplish with $20 there so often.
Yeah, for sure. So he calls, and now king on the turn, and hero in the spot actually comes out betting, but he bets pretty small, so it's like basically half pot here. What do you think of the sizing, and what do you think about this card as far as ranges go?
I mean, this is pretty interesting because this card is still better for us. This board is still better for us. But at the same time, we got to think he called us on the button. So probably has something on that board. And a king coming on the turn is likely going to make him want to continue. And also, he's going to continue for 45 with a hand like Jack 10 or a hand like King Queen or King 10. Like, we're giving him a fine price to continue here with weakish holding. So I don't really like this sizing in particular.
Yeah, I think the important point here is it's really hard to find any hand that is folding for this amount, right? Which hand is folding? Flush draw is not folding, and when he has a jack, I don't think he's calling with like jack 9 off pre-flop, right? So it's maybe jack 9 suited, jack 8 suited, so not a lot of combos, and he has all the king queens, all the king 10s, jack 10, queen jacks, and of course an ace also is never folding, like ace deuce and spades always continuing on this card. So yeah, we just have not enough fold equity. So I think here it's important to go back to the flop and think about his flop calling range, and then you will realize that he's probably folding about 0 hands, because the weaker pairs like 6s and 7s are very likely to just fold on the flop even for 20 bucks.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest point here, is that if he is ever going to consider folding on the turn for what his flop calling range would be, it's not going to be for $45, that's for sure.
Yes. Yeah. And then we see that this is probably not the best sizing that we should use. Yeah, what do you guys think? What is a good sizing here?
I'm okay with a bet for sure. But considering that we obviously block some queen 10s, we have some nuts here, and we has some queen tens, but we definitely have more than him. We obviously have all the sets, and we want to start putting pressure on his one pair with a gut shot holding. So I would size for probably in the 70% range here, setting up a very large river bet.
Yeah, I think we can actually go for over bets here mainly because I think like say 3/4 to a pot is good too, but I think it'd be a good strategy to go fairly condensed range and use over bets because again, like you say, we have a huge nut advantage, and he probably doesn't have queen ten off. He might have some two pairs, but I think we have all queen ten off, all sets, all two pairs. So I like going maybe something with like ace queen plus, going like 130, 150%, and then basically everything else is checking for pot control. Or we could also split it and maybe go like have some small bets, like say 2/3 with like hands like maybe ace 10, ace queen, and then we could use some over bets with hands like top two plus, or even like king jack plus, something like that. I think works pretty well because again, this card is so good for us, and even though we're out of position, I think we have a massive nut advantage. I think we can definitely utilize the over bets here, and because if we have a hand like let's say ace king, ace jack, or like a set, like it's going to be pretty high EV for us to use over bets and just put him in like a really tough spot with his range. So something to consider at least, I think there.
Yeah, I think
He's
your
definitely in a tough spot against aces.
yeah, your strategy is going to get a lot of folds here on the turn, and going 70% will definitely get some more continues. So it's going to take another big sizing on the river.
Yeah. I think both options are viable, but I do think in spots where we have big nut advantage, like just applying as much pressure as you can is going to net you the highest EV in these spots. And I think our hand is like a really good bluff too, because obviously we block, if he had something like queen 10 suited, we block ace queen, we block king queen, like we block a lot of his bluff catchers. It'd be nice if we had clubs, but this hand also is pretty good as a triple, because if we bet here and it breaks off, then we're unblocking all his club draws and shit too, right? So I think the main thing that all of us agree for sure is like bigger on the turn, because it's just not, I think that small size, you just never get in folds.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we should definitely bet bigger, like you guys mentioned. Between 80 and 150%, depending on your overall strategy, makes a lot of sense to have enough fold equity on the turn against a hand like Jack X, for example.
For sure. So he calls, river does break out, and now what do you guys think here? I mean, obviously it's either bet or give up. What do you think about sizings here? Actually, let's see what he did first. So he did come out betting about like 60 to 70%. So at least he sized up a bit here, but do you think it's big enough? Or do you think he should go really polar again with our particular holding?
I don't think it's big enough, honestly, because we're talking about live cash games here, and we are trying to get someone to fold the highest of pairs on the river.
Yeah.
So 100, it's not going to work.
And a flush draw bricked, right?
What was that?
And a flush draw bricked, so he's even more
and a flush draw correct too. So yeah, for sure. The one nice thing that we know based on our $45 turn bet is we know he never has queen 10 here. He would have put in a raise on the turn with queen 10.
Yeah,
so exactly. that's I guess the one luxury of betting that sizing. Perhaps if we bet 150 on the turn, he actually could have some queen 10s there if he calls. So we can pretty safely assume that he's capped to a pretty weakish holding here, and we can just bomb and put pressure on him.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, I like that idea for sure.
Because I think the thing is, it's really standard. People see these lines all the time as well, right? Like people always see these like 2/3 bets on the river, and it's not that hard to bluff catch against these bets because you're getting a pretty good price, and you just know like, okay, this guy can have like a bunch of missed draws. Maybe he's thin value betting with some weaker ace X, right? So makes it a lot easier. But I think if you do size up here again, like at least considering an overbet here, people don't see that much in live games, right? So it's something you can definitely work into your game. And if you want to start, if you think people are going to overfold to it, start doing it with bluffs to start, right? And then once they realize you're actually doing it with bluffs as well as value hands, they're going to have to call you down, right? If you play against them at least a reasonable amount of time. And so then again, it's just going to maximize the EV of your range, I think, when you put in really big bets here with whatever, like top two pair or even hands like ace jack, right? You put him in such a tough spot if he has something like ace 5 suited, ace 6 suited, not ace 6 suited, but you get the idea, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we make ourselves really easy to play against here when we bet $110 on the river, because sometimes he's just going to click call here and expect to lose sometimes, you know. But if really difficult to play against, he's going to be in pain if he's going to make this call, and it's going to cost him, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think when it's important on the river to also look at his range, right? What is realistically his turn calling range, and he still has all the weaker aces, right? I mean, now ace-6 beats us. That's a shame, but nothing you can do with ace-6 suited. But he has all the other suited aces. He has ace-deuce, ace-4, ace-7, 8, 9, 10, right? And with all those hands, he's in a really, really shitty spot on the river. And of course, in the future, you can also exploit, right? When you see, okay, he calls down with like ace-5, he's definitely calling way too wide, and we just go for thin value all the time and bluff less. And when he folds face up ace-10 on the river, okay, we should bluff more, right? Stuff like this is so important for the future game. And like you mentioned, this makes us really, really hard to play. And this is why we want to be way more polarized on the river.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. And the thing is that people hate calling massive bets with one pair. And because he didn't three bet pre-flop, because he just called flop, just called turn, always going to have one pair here. The caveat is maybe like an ace-6 of hearts or something that, you know, but otherwise he's going to have one pair. And when someone has one pair and you put in a massive bet, it's really tough for them.
Yeah. Also, in most 2-5 games, overbets are fairly value heavy, I'd say.
Yeah, people know that. I think another point too is that obviously the bigger we bet, the more we can bluff too, right? Like if you consistently use 50%, 60% bets, you got to watch out with your bluffing range, because if you have too many bluffs, you're gonna get crushed, right? Whereas if you use overbets with like a good blockers, like this hand, I think is one of our best. Maybe something like Jack 10 would be good too, right? Blocking two pairs, but something like this, right? Would you guys agree that it's like we unblock flush draws and then we block the straights and the ace queens if he has ace queen, like I said, but
like
it's
some 10x, some queen x. That's about it usually.
Yeah. So it's like being selective and then putting those big bets in is going to allow you to have more bluffs. So unfortunately, in game he got called, and then so the opponent has the ace 10 off, right? So pretty predictable that the guy's going to call you, I think, for 3 streets once you put those small bets in.
Yeah,
so
I mean, he has the best hand he can basically ever have, right? When he folds ace-10, then something is wrong with live cash. I mean, he has a really nice bluff catcher with ace-10, even against a bigger bet size. This hand is definitely a call if he calls this hand pre-flop. But yeah, our mistake is definitely not betting big enough on the river. That's for sure here.
It's unfortunate. I think that even Jack 10 and King 10 are going to call sometimes for the sizing. So we definitely don't want to give them a price where they feel obligated to call with their one pair hands.
Yeah, and all the suited aces. I mean, those are so many combinations. Some players, even okay-ish racks, sometimes call with ace-9 offsuit button against cutoff steal. So yeah, we just need more full equity.
Yep. Yeah. Well, thanks for the review, guys. That was pretty good. I think the main concept is definitely try to apply more pressure, right? In spots where you think you have a big range advantage, big nut advantage, just put the big bets in and see how people react. And then the more you do that too, you're going to become a much more dangerous player, right? People aren't going to necessarily want to play faults with you when they know you're capable of putting in like big bets on the turn at river. It's just much tougher to play against. So something to consider in your own games.
Yeah, and it sets you up for getting big value when you do have a big hand,
For sure.
Yeah. People don't think usually about a game plan. They just see you one or twice bluffing and assume you just bluff way too often, so they start bluff catching way lighter than usual, and obviously, then you can just start printing money.
Totally.
For sure. All right, cool.
All right, guys, thanks for the review. So see you soon.
All right, take it easy, guys. Thanks, Johnny.